All right, from time to time, folks, you know, I like to have people on, and I like to interview them. I like to have chats with interesting folk, and through many trials and tribulations, this has finally happened. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Conan Neutron. Conan, thanks for stopping by for a chat.
Of course, yeah, happy to be here.
Now, let's just break it down here. We're both in Wisconsin.
We are. It's very muggy right now.
It is. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I haven't gone into.
Really need this.
I haven't gone into my basement because my water wings won't inflate, so I'm just kind of worried
Oh
about,
boy.
Yeah. So now you're not originally from Wisconsin, though. You're from Oakland, am I correct?
Oakland, California, yes, sir.
Oaktown. Now, why would you leave such a happy place to come here?
The progressive utopia that is the Bay Area, and to come out here.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the easiest way to explain is cost of living. We had been in a situation where if we had moved from our current place, it would basically be like $1,000 more a month rent to be in a place even at parity, let alone bigger. And that's not even an exaggeration. The tech.com wave, current .com wave, there actually was one in the late 90s. There was a bubble that bursted. This bubble shows no signs of bursting, has driven up cost of living, and it's driven a lot of people that are, old residents from generations back, as well as, first wave gentrifiers such as myself, away, because in the same way that gentrification works, you make some place that artists can make their art and do cool stuff, and then gradually a transformation takes place, and you have artless people coming in and reaping the rewards and taking advantage of that. And from a creative standpoint, with Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, everybody's spread out all over the damn place anyway, so it didn't really matter. With Protonic Controversial, I can do that pretty much from wherever. And the idea is we try somewhere else for a change and be able to buy ourselves some cost of living upgrades, like be able to do things without having to stress over every decision. And that's totally been the case, and it's been awesome. And Milwaukee's a place I know very well from touring. I have a lot of friends out here, a lot of friends that are close enough that I consider them more family members. So we had a strong base of support to come into, and everyone's been very welcoming. It's been very cool. But since that's a very long and nuanced answer, if it's somebody that I just want to stop talking to, I'll just be like, oh, because of family, and then they'll stop talking to me, which is great. But that's not true at all. All my family's in California, and all her family's in California too.
Well, see,
most of it.
That's the beautiful part now is now you can just direct them to this, and you don't have to answer at all.
Watch this show.
Yeah, just get a tiny URL and just put on a little business card. So why'd you move to Milwaukee? Just hand them a business card.
You're going to be really confused at first, but I guarantee you it'll make sense 2 minutes in.
Exactly. But a lot of people don't seem to realize, because everyone seems to be on either coast, that the Midwest is
it's awesome.
It's super cheap. It's
very
comparatively
cheap,
speaking, yeah.
Well, and I would say if you're someone that's very good at making your own entertainment, it's almost an ideal situation. If you're someone that craves, have 7 different amazing, world-shatteringly fantastic shows every night, then okay, great, major metropolitan areas are for you, and that's something that you're craving and needing. But if you don't need that and you're able to get your kicks other ways, it's a great base of support. I mean, just from a touring perspective, the amount of cities that you can go and play on a long weekend is easy. When you're a band and you're playing and you started off and you tour in the West Coast, it's 10 hours to Portland from the Bay Area. And everyone confuses Los Angeles and San Francisco anyway. It's that's 3 states away for over here. It's that's 6.5 hours. That's, a full third of the country that you're going for. So I feel like the bands that come up touring from the West Coast, you have to want it more. You have to want to do it more. And it requires a certain kind of crazy. And I've toured all through the U.S. many times over. And I've always, every time I ever played Milwaukee, I was always like, wow, what a cool place. It actually reminded me a lot of Oakland in a lot of very key ways. Of course, coming from one of the most integrated cities in the world to one of the most segregated was definitely a change up. But, in general, in all the ways that count.
Yeah, it's
kind of key one.
Yeah, this is Wisconsin special. We're a very special place, And it's
But that's
amazing.
also one of the things I'm trying to help with that too. You know what I mean? I'm trying to pitch in where I can.
And the thing is, like, people don't seem to realize is like there's Chicago. If you have to go to a huge metropolitan area, Chicago is, well, if you're from where I'm at, Chicago is like a 2-hour drive depending on traffic. From where you're at, probably 2.5, 3 maybe tops.
Again, the depending on traffic is the key aspect of that. Yes,
depending on traffic and construction, because the minute that any snow melts and August hits, not August, but April hits in Wisconsin, folks, you have to understand that the cones come out, the roads get tore up, regardless of whether we're done getting snow or not, and it's impossible to get around.
We used to on tour. We always say that it should be Wisconsin under construction should be the state slogan.
It's true. We shouldn't our state animal shouldn't be the badger. It should be the orange cone.
Yeah, or just put the badger in like a construction hat or something.
Yeah, exactly. Have him stand next to
orange coats.
Yeah, have him stand next to a sign that says open or closed through traffic.
Yeah, like waving cars on.
Exactly.
He's state mascot.
Exactly. There you go. He's just like, and he's super pissed about the whole thing, which everybody is.
Yet adorable nonetheless.
Yes, you just want to hug him.
He's a mascot. Come on.
You just want to hug him as he's ripping your eyes out. But now, from what age did you want to perform? Did you grow up with a musical family, or what was the story there?
Not so much a musical family. My mom and dad were very, very much rockers. I had cool parents, so meaning that they smoked a lot of pot and listened to a lot of records. So I grew up, and as a young child, I heard Black Sabbath and and Neil Young and like Led Zeppelin and all those kinds of things. And it's kind of was something where it was just always around me. Rock and roll was always around me, and it never really super connected with me until high school when I heard, frankly, when I heard Nirvana, and then Nirvana beget Sonic Youth and Melvins and Jesus Lizard and Butthole Surfers and whatnot, and then just kind of led me down my path of forevermore being ensconced in the rock and roll world. But it's interesting because my parents they were cool parents, but they went and saw the Ramones at Winterland, right? They saw the Ramones and the classic Ramones, not even CJ era, DD era.
Wow.
And they saw Led Zeppelin and Day of the Green when my mom was 6 months pregnant with me. To which I asked, "Wasn't that dangerous for the pregnancy?" And my dad's like, "Well, yeah, but it was Zeppelin."
You can't. That's a non-arguable statement. You can't come up with anything to argue that. It was Zeppelin.
I was like, fair. So if anyone's ever wondering why it turned out the way I did, that's the atmosphere that I came from. Sort of semi well-meaning but chaotic hippie-ish parents, and then I've found my specific brand of punk rock and generated order from chaos.
So so it's safe to say that your parents were the types that the zero fucks were given.
Yeah, more or less, and not to castigate them or anything, but they both had their backgrounds that they were overcoming. My dad being the black sheep of his family. If you were a male member of the family, you enlisted in the military, and then you did your service, and you came back and you started a business, and there was all these things that you had to check off, and he decided he was going to do none of that, and he grew his hair long and wrote poetry and went to war protests and just did all the things he weren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And but all the things he wanted to do. And my mom, total free spirit, who just had a very tumultuous relationship with her mother. Unfortunately, but just they when they found each other, it was something where they were able to be freaks together, which that's all you can really hope for in life, right?
That's all you can hope for. It really is. Hey, are you a weirdo too? You are. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, sounds good.
One-stop shop.
So, so I was just gonna say, I guess the original question was, how I got around to performing and playing music. It was really my friend Clay, who's on the cover of the first Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends record, The Enemy of Everyone. It's actually a picture in high school without a note of music being played. We took a bunch of promo photos that a friend of ours It just took of us just because the idea was like, oh, well, we'll just plan out the discography and we'll get the promo photos. And it's like the playing of music was, we'll say, not even say a secondary concern, but more of a tertiary concern. But the idea, we were like, really, we live in this town, Modesto, which is about an hour and a half to the east of the Bay Area in a world away. And it's weird to think about with the internet being where it is now, that when that wasn't such a ubiquitous prospect, the idea of being like, hey, you have to drive to another town to like buy a record by a band that you like. Like the idea of that is like absurd. Like, of course, you're like, oh, what's this? Boop, 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 boop. Oh, I have the entire discography. I know everything about them now. Next.
Yeah.
And that isn't supposed to be like a kids these days don't understand shaking your fist thing. It's just a statement of fact that, me and my friend Clay, we bonded based on the fact that we liked, the same freaky, weird rock that came from like a post-punk sort of place and had a very fuck you sort of mentality. Right. And because of that, we went from nerding out about Stephen King and role-playing games like D&D and stuff like that to like suddenly all we cared about was Mudhoney records and Butthole Surfer 7 inches and things like that. And through that, we both started to find our existences in different ways. But the key factor was I was just sitting there reading a book, as I was known to do, and hear ding dong on the door. Go to the door, and it's Clay with his brother Randy, and he has a bass in his hand, and he says, "Hey, I just went and bought a bass. You need to go buy a guitar so we can be a band." To which I said, "Okay," and I went over and asked like, "Hey, can I get a guitar?" Because I had like a gift coming to me for my birthday, and I just didn't want anything. It was nothing I wanted, which some things never change. I'm a very hard person to shop for. I was like, I think I want to get a guitar. And so we went and I got a guitar, and it was just, that was it. That was just like, that was all it was. I bought a bass. You need to buy a guitar so we can be a band. Oh, all right.
So it was one of those things where it's like, well, and fine, we're like, okay, you know what, we'll do what every other band does, and we'll struggle to find a drummer for months and months and years and years. And
right.
Yeah, that's every band. But I know exactly what you're talking about because I was the same way with Mark Shepard.
Gotcha.
We met in high school, and we bonded over this music that nobody else was listening to. Mudhoney, and I remember one time he made me a mix, and it's like Mudhoney and Sunny Day Real Estate and Sonic Youth and all this kind of stuff. So I'm just like, in this whole new world of that I didn't have to nobody wore, you didn't have to worry about what you wore, you didn't have to worry about how you acted. You were accepted all around by the people in this whole scene, and I think that's part of what was great about back then, and I think some of that has gone away now. I think a lot of things, like I remember I did an interview once. I'm not going to say the artist because he really went off, but he made mention of the fact that on I was like some big tour, and Panic at the Disco had a giant bus and all this other kind of bullshit, and it was just like their first album. They didn't know how to play their instruments and all that kind of stuff, and it's like it's hard to see that when you see people like you who worked hard and sweat for every fucking thing that they have.
Accent on the sweat, yeah.
Oh, I've seen them live, folks. The sweat is real. In fact, if you go to my Instagram, there's a picture of me and Conan after Blankfest. The sweat is real. I think that he has like robot claws, and to wring out his clothes afterwards.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a sweaty thing, and now that actually leads me into this. We'll get into...
just one thing. Real quick.
Yes.
I just want to say, I think that it's notable that you touched on something that, again, in different times, like it was very easy when you lived in like and when I say small town, I mean like it's a town of like 120,000 people, right? But one where nobody really shared your values,
right?
Like it's just a bunch of like rednecks, and the top dollar best anyone's going to do is go sell cars at their dad's dealership or something along those lines. Nobody with any ambition to do anything other than live these quiet, ordinary lives. For some people, fine. But to be able to find a culture, not just a culture in music, like a type of like, okay, I know what I'm not, but this has helped me figure out who I am, was a big deal for me. And as much as like, yeah, like I listened to Black Sabbath and stuff, and I loved it. I thought it was great. But when I first heard, stuff, yeah, like Daydream Nation and like the Jesus or like Melvin's Houdini, like I was like, oh no, this is different. This is very different, and I am for this, whatever this is. And that was something where I found my brand, that old cigarette ad or whatever. That was my brand for sure. So anyway, sorry, continue. But
no, I was just gonna say it's like I think the first time I ever got upset by a celebrity death was when Kurt Cobain died, because he felt like this huge kind of epicenter of an entire different world that we were all a part of, that we all kind of clung on to. And that I think, and this is going to sound weird, and I know people will tweet me or they'll leave stuff in the comments about how much of an idiot I am. I get it a lot, don't worry. I think when he died, it kind of like the whole scene kind of broke apart in a way. There are still
I think it's accurate.
Yeah, there are still people like PRF and all that kind of stuff. You guys are like a big family, and that's great to see. But there are like having
from a larger perspective though, as far as reach and. Yeah, it being something where having this like global phenomenon of people having this shared experience, and then to have that taken away in a way that it's, granted the man suffered from mental illness, but was very selfish. I mean, again, it's weird to think about because we got the internet now, right? All you got to do is like make a post or something, and you can talk to anyone from around the world about what's going on. And that's a wonderful thing, except for when it isn't. But that wasn't the case then. And it definitely, I think a lot of people had their first helping of grief and just this sort of like unfairness of life with that. Again, for a person that they never really knew, they only knew by the art. But I think that's an accurate thing because I felt the same. I
mean, I think there's you could possibly say the Beatles as well reached people on that kind of a level, but I think that in the beginning, their music didn't reach out to people like an All Apologies or something along those lines from a Nirvana, which is kind of, it really reached out and grabbed people and said, hey, I got your back until I don't have your back, which, was
right.
Kind of, but yeah. So now what I was,
and then you had corporations that were like, oh no, we're going to just like make something that sounds like that. And these idiots won't know any better. And so that's a whole separate podcast and a whole separate discussion.
Yes, it really is. So, but the one thing about you that differs from so many other bands out there, and I really appreciate this, is you've got the bands that like put on their shitty makeup and that kind of stuff. And it's always, but I remember at Blank Fest, you showed up, you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and we were talking back by the merch, hanging out, having a good time. About 30 minutes before you go on, you kind of like, you run out to your van, and then you just vanish. And then the next time
green room, so yeah, like, the van's up as a green room.
Yeah, so you just vanish, and you come back, and you're wearing like this sparkly suit, and it's just like it's almost like, I'm trying to think of the guy's name now, and I can't remember his. It's like almost like Buddy Holly got on stage, but with a big amp and a very loud guitar. But you're putting on a show for people, and that's lost. And you're able to mix that kind of like a Mudhoney Nirvana type punk aesthetic with putting on a show. And at what point did you realize that was something that you wanted or needed to do?
So I think Nirvana had an image. The image was, hey, all that like floofy hair and like glam stuff, like kind of hair metal crap that's lame. So we're gonna do this in like t-shirt and jeans and flannel shirts. But that in and of itself was an image. And for me, because I played in this band Replicator for pretty much all my 20s, and we were a t-shirt and jeans band, and it was just as intense of a show. But the idea of doing anything other than that just never even occurred to me. But since then, and having kind of absorbed all of the things that I like about, artists like David Bowie, Johnny Cash, and even like, the non-lame things about like a band like Kiss and like Alice Cooper band is probably a better example. And the fact that you can play very intense music that has like that authenticity and bring a show factor to it. And I find what's interesting is in quote unquote heavy music or weird music or whatever, there's this total block against it. that like it's sort of like, oh, like what are these assholes up to? Like people get really weird about it, and like to me that seems like more rules. And I didn't get into punk rock because of rules. I wasn't like, hey, I need some rules to follow. Somebody got some rules here. So as much as like I've busted chops for like people wearing shorts on stage and stuff like that, I don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't matter to me at all. And it was a conscious decision. Like I had these kind of button up cowboy shirts for a while. And for a while, I mean, from like 2009 to like year before last that I wore because I just thought it like looked cool and it's kind of an interesting look that you don't see that kind of music being done on. But then once I saw Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick wearing literally one of like my exact show shirts, I was like, okay, it's time to switch it up. Which of course somehow meant adding more layers.
Which doesn't help because you sweat so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you put on the kind of show that we put on, that's incredibly stupid. But nobody ever said I always did the smart thing. So, because the thing is like, oh yeah, let me not change the show in any way, shape, or form, but add more layers. But when I started thinking about, you know, artists that I really love, like again, like Bowie, like Nick Cave, and like these artists that like put on this huge presentation, and of course they had like lighting rigs and crews and things along those lines. Like, okay, well, I don't have access to any of that, but I have access to what I do for myself. And I found if I can find a way to bring that show, but also kind of have it be, it's goofy's the wrong word. It's not meant to be goofy, but it is meant to be to make people think about what they're listening to. Because a lot of the Secret Friends stuff, there's a lot of hooks. Like it's actually about the songs. It isn't about like, oh, this band is vocals optional. We're just like blaring away, and some dude's like, rah, 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 you know. And then,
bless you, by the way.
Yeah, I love some bands like that, but you know, it's their songs. Like it has more in common, like with the Beatles than Mersbo. You know what I mean? So, like, if that can make people sort of re-examine what they're looking at and kind of experience things in a different way. And that's an easy way to kind of get people in a different headspace. And what the fascinating thing with me is the when we're playing, it's something that like brings in an aspect of inclusivity for the ladies in the crowd that might be otherwise put off from like a big, loud, obnoxious rock band. And I get like tons of women coming afterwards like, oh, I love your coats. That's so awesome. And it's like a way that like it gives them something to like say like, hey, this is not necessarily just a bunch of like scary ass dudes yelling at you,
right?
Which is really cool. And who it pisses off are all the people that I want to piss off anyway, which are just like annoying, cynical dudes that, again, they look at it like, oh, you're breaking the orthodoxy of not wearing jeans and t-shirt. What an idiot! I can't believe you're doing that. And you know, and not that happens like very often, mind you, but it has happened. And I'm like, all right, I don't give a rat's ass. What do you think about this? And for me, it's just, you know, I am trying to come from that great tradition of someone that, like, if you're on a stage, if you're saying, hey, look at this, we're going to do something for you, then I feel like you need to give people something to look at. And part of that is give something worthwhile. And it comes from having an epiphany myself that, like, I'm never going to be, I have what I do, and I do what I do well, but I'm never going to be the world's greatest guitar player.
Lies.
I've gotten a million times better than I have in the past, but I'm never going to be like the world's greatest vocalist. But I'm a pretty damn good frontman, and that's something that, like, I can sort of connect with people and bring this kind of music in a way that not everyone can. And so this is a way to sort of bridge that and kind of, again, make people think differently about it and try to make something enjoyable. And I guess I just could have said that, but
well, plus, I mean, when I'm gonna break down the Secret Friends the best I can in the quickest way that I possibly can. It's you'd never have the same band more than once. For the most part, I mean, Tony is pretty much your consistent bass player. For the most part.
From a recorded perspective, it's almost always the same. But from a live perspective, it's not that it's always different, but I do like the phrase "always different, always the same," because we have different awesome folks that play with us that generally tend to have their own bands as well. So the idea is that, we can have these great people, these incredibly talented people playing with us and playing these songs. They're really into playing these songs with us. But we can also just sort of, if there's something cool, we can just say yes to it and figure it out as well. Because it's not like there's a certain set of criteria that has to be met to be a secret friend. And I'm not even sure if I'd be able to write it down and figure it out. But everybody that ever gets asked into play is a total badass and has a certain attitude about music where you're not doing it to be popular. You're not doing it, which, boy, would you be barking up the wrong tree if you're doing that. But you're not doing it for, like, accolades, for lack of a better term. You're doing it because you kind of want to give the ass-kicking back that music gave to you. And for better or for worse, like, I mean, I think that this is a unique thing. And, a lot of people seem to want to get on board the ship with me. So that's fantastic. But it does puzzle people because people will be like, it's a different band now. Did that person quit? I'm like, well, that person was never really in the band. Like,
right.
Like, so that's why I hearken, being a comic book nerd, as you know, hearken on the Avengers analogy, which is
I'm going to totally keep that. I'm not even going to say a goddamn thing about that, but go on. We've had
because there's different lineups, but it's always the Avengers.
Right.
Like, that's something that, comic book nerd had on. Like, it's like the X-Men or something along those lines. It's just, there's different people. Sometimes it'll be like we've done power trios. We've done like 6-piece lineups. It grows or contracts based upon the need and based upon the availability. And what I would like to get to the point, and I don't know if it's at this point yet or not, is that people can kind of look at it like a trusted name to know that they can expect a certain something out of it that, will ideally be worthwhile. It seems like we're on the right track. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know nothing. But it confuses the hell out of people, and it's incredibly nuanced, and it fails the elevator test, which is you get to describe what you do on an elevator going up a few floors. Totally fails that.
Yeah, I can. Well, the way I look at it is, if you want to be a secret friend, you have to be as good as, if not better than, Erica from Motherfucker.
Which is tough to do. That's because she's a badass.
See, there you go. That just puts it where she's the fucking measuring stick right there. So
if Erica Strout is your gold standard, then you're doing okay.
Yeah, and I still owe you a beer for introducing me to Motherfucker, because they are motherfucking amazing. So
one of my favorite bands. Their next record will split planets as long as they can pull together and make it. God damn it.
I have faith. I don't have faith in much, but I have faith in their new record. Now, speaking of new records, sir, let's get to this one. You're putting now. Is this something you've done before, where you put out a single every month or month and a half or so?
I don't think there's anybody that's done this before, let alone me. But at least not with the level of resources I have, which is few. So the thing is, you're talking about is called Protons and Electrons,
right?
And it's a split single actually every month. It's a digital single and a 7-inch. That's there's 300 copies only. When they're gone, they're gone. Forget about it. Everybody on the Protons and Electrons other side either plays in Secret Friends, records with Secret Friends, or has some incredibly important part to how Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends came to be. It's Atom 1, Atom 2, Atom 3, Atom 4, etc., etc. The artwork is all hand screened by this guy Chris Williams from Plastic Flame Press, who does a lot of like big art posters for like rock and roll and stuff. And like the first one, it's like a hydrogen atom. Second one, it's like a helium atom. Like and so on and so on. The idea behind it, really, well, there's a couple ideas. First of all, is the way people consume music. Art of Murder, especially, I feel like was the most fully realized records I've ever done. There's very few times in life you can be like, that's exactly the way I envisioned it. And it is, and I love it for that. But it's also a lot to take in. And some people do, but people don't really listen to records as much like as a unit anymore. So the idea was, let's go the other way. Let's record a bunch of singles. Let's record a bunch of songs that they don't have to all sound the same. They don't have to be the same kind of song, but they all have to get in and kind of get what they need done and get out.
Right.
And I've never done that, ever. In my entire musical career, I've never done that. So the idea was like, wow, okay, that's an interesting challenge. Like, what would that sound like? And so there's like rockin' songs, there's like poppy songs, there's like heavy songs, there's like kind of like there's a song that sounds like a surf song or something. Like it's nuts, but it all sounds like Secret Friends, and it's a good way to present the material. That instead of being like, "Hey world, here's an album of 12 songs," it's every month. Hey, here's a new thing. Here's a new thing. Here's a new thing.
Right.
And like many things with this band, it's confusing to people.
Well, that's just the way things go. I mean, you gotta. I mean, and I haven't been.
And I managed to take a band that was like sustainable, like that we hadn't like lost money on a single release, and just do things the least cost efficiently possible.
Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to stand out from the rest of the crowd. I think. I know I haven't been.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know if it's that so much. It's just that that's the way I wanted to do it. That was the challenge. That was like the box to for this was like, let's try this.
Right.
Which and sorry to interrupt you, but every
no, you're fine.
Secret Friends record there's been some aspect of that. To bring it back around, the first record, my friend Clay, who got me playing music, passed away a month before we recorded the record. And then what I found is a lot of the lyrics that I was writing was kind of if not directly, indirectly about him and about like some like our relationship together, right? And because we like moved out from our shitty hometown to the Bay Area together, like we were really close until we weren't. And that I felt was fully conceived in its way. And then the idea was, okay, well then that was cool. What's next? And then I was like, well, why don't we try something like deeper with like going into it with a concept ahead of time? And that's how I just happened upon, me being a big fan of like the Thomas Harris books and all the attendant movies and shows and stuff of Art of Murder, which is all about Hannibal Lecter and the world around him. I just like, wow, what a cool God! It'd be so cool to like write about that, and like, what would that sound like? And I had the sound in my head before anything else. And for some people, that's all they know Secret Friends from. And so, it's like, all right, well, you may be disappointed or bummed out that it doesn't all sound like that.
Whoops.
But I don't care. You know what I mean? Because in the same vein as the Melvins or, David Bowie or whatever, it's like we're going to do whatever we're going to do. And so with Protons Electrons, the idea was, like I said, to get away from that and just the idea of like, no, these songs just get in and get out. And they do whatever they do. And, some will be live staples for forever. Some will maybe never play live. Maybe one or two will be incredibly popular. And I'll be like, really, that one? Because that tends to happen now and again. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe the whole thing will just be like, all right, that was a thing that happened. On to the next thing. But the absurd amount of work, which I talked to a bunch of people that run, relatively well-known record labels that, your listeners would all know. And they're all like, oh, that's crazy. Don't do that. That's totally crazy. Don't.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's going to be so much work. I'm like, yeah, I know. It is. It's going to be. And it is. They're not wrong. Nobody's wrong about this, but it's how I want to do it. And if anyone wants to come along for the ride, they're welcome to. And I don't know, like I'm in a place where I feel incredibly fully realized with what I do with Secret Friends. And I hadn't realized that I was looking for that as much until I had it.
Right. Yeah. It's sometimes you just gotta, wait and wait and wait and wait, and then finally it smacks you in the face. But let's talk about the next single that's coming out. Not just
yes, which you have a vested interest in.
I have a very big. I'm actually because I don't spend a lot on physical media unless I'm really super into it. Yeah,
which is fine. Yeah, I mean,
but
it's.
I have to buy this one. I have to buy this 7-inch because I have a vested interest in it. So tell everybody about the new single that's coming out and when and where they can find it. And then we'll talk about the other
pretty much all things Secret Friends. The best place to find it is on the Bandcamp, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com or neutronfriends.com if you feel that somehow, just like Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends, those are too many words to hold your attention. But the one next month from this taping in May is called "Paved Age" is the name of the song, and it features a video by your humble host Ron.
Hey, that's me.
And I'm very excited to unveil that to the world when that time comes. I also forgot that I really like that song too, because one of the things about doing this is we recorded all this at once, the day after the Cheeto in chief got elected, which is a weird time to be recorded. And it had been so long for some of these that I almost kind of I didn't forget about them, but I kind of forgot about them. So I was listening to it the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a good song. I dig it."
Well, the thing about Paved Age is a song that could have come out of the Art of Murder sessions. I feel.
Yeah, it's definitely got a heavy groove. It's got a yeah, for sure. The sound is very much of the same ilk, and it's basically about the founding of the interstate highway system and the bullet in the head towards the railways and the and commuter trains and things along those lines throughout most of the U.S. But also just sort of about like the decline of if not decline, we'll just say change in culture that just taking everything and paving it over. Right?
Kind of like as far forward as we go. No matter how, like, if we take 3 steps forward, we're taking 4 steps back.
Right. It isn't necessarily passing judgment so much as just kind of documenting maybe conversations in those rooms at that time. And yeah, it's I dig it. Like I said, I had not forgotten about it, but I kind of forgotten about it. I'm sure it'll end up in the live set for some upcoming shows.
I passed judgment in the video, that's for sure.
For sure, absolutely. But yeah, it's crazy because that's going to be the 4th one, and Nonagon from Chicago is on the other side, and but by the same token, like we just prep release 8.
Jesus, Murphy.
So
that's crazy.
Because it's one every month, so we have to do them in batches, like 3 or 4 at a time, and it takes a while. And they're all like this. The jackets are all hand screened by a dude that screens things. Like every piece of it, like humans are touching all of this. I mean, not like in an inappropriate way, but everybody's. Yeah.
Everything becomes an R. Crumb picture.
So it's the kind of thing where, if you're the kind of person into that kind of thing, then that's a product for you. And if you're not, that's totally okay as well. There's other ways to consume this music, through digital means as per normal. And then at the end of it, it's all going to be collected into 2 records, Protons on one side, which is Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, and Electrons, which is basically going to be a really cool comp. So for people that like that, but don't like the idea of having a bunch of 7 inches around, then there you go. Yeah, for people that like the Pokemon aspect of it, you can catch them all you want. It's all you.
There you go. Perfect. And now, when does that song come out for people so they can...
That should be June 16th, I believe. I'd have to look to see, but it's going to... the digital will be up at the beginning of June.
There you go. Just go to all the websites he mentioned, and you can follow him on the social medias and stuff. And
NeutronFriends.com, NeutronFriends.bandcamp.com. That's probably the best place. We're on Facebook, but I feel like you have to pay for ads for anybody to see anything.
This is probably true. Really true. Now, what shows you got coming? This will be up on tomorrow, actually. So,
okay.
What shows you got coming up for the fine folks? And for the folks who are listening to this way later, you missed out.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just missed a really great show. We just played the Cactus Club with the Mesthetics, which is Brendan and Joe from Fugazi, and that was a fantastic show. But that was in the past, so that's unless you have a time machine, you're not gonna be able to attend that one.
All right, Doctor Who.
We're playing this weekend coming up. We're playing in Oakland for the PRF West, which we were not originally doing, but we're going out there to play that, which is awesome. It's great to play on the old stomping grounds.
Returning hero, like that article said. You're the returning hero.
Right. Embarrassing. So we aren't playing anything in the Wisconsin area until July. We got a weekend of shows July 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's we're playing like Livewire. We're playing the all-day thing Jeff Moody's putting on at George's, I believe. It's like an all-day thing full of bands, and we're playing. I forget the venue in Milwaukee, but we got like a weekend of shows coming up in on that July. Tony's getting married in August, so we're kind of taking it easy for that month. But we got a bunch of stuff coming up in the fall. We just got back from a pretty comprehensive tour that was went through basically half of the U.S. and that was fun. We played a bunch of shows that were great, and we saw a bunch of bands and sold some stuff, and it's great. It was,
rocked and rolled.
Some people, well, as you get on in years, not that I have the cane out necessarily, but some people kind of drop out of doing it, or just or they don't want to do certain aspects of it. They don't like doing touring. They don't like this. They don't like that. Whatever. I still love all of it. Right. I mean, for me, it has to be sustainable always, but thus far, knock on wood, it is, and partially that's because for every crazy nonsense thing that we do, there's stuff that's deeply pragmatic that goes along with it that allows us to keep the wheels going. And if it grows into something bigger, that's fantastic, but it will consistently be there, and it's organized in such a way that it could be up on blocks for 2 years and we don't do anything. Right. Or we put out 3 records in 1 year. It doesn't matter, because for me and how this band operates now, I feel like it's opened up certain doors and avenues that were not available from before. And like I said, I've playing with Dale, which we didn't even mention. This is the first interview where we didn't actually mention that famous Dale plays drums, which is usually what people lead with.
It's called. That's the thing, and I was thinking about this. I'm it's called Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. It's not called Dale and Company.
Dale Crover and the Secret Friends. Yeah.
So I mean, he's there, and that's great. But at this point, it's not like he's at first if someone just getting into your music, they put on that first record and they see Dale Crover and they're like, whoa, this is kind of I don't want to use the word niche, but it's kind of it's almost like a gimmick kind of thing. But then, oh wait, he's on Art of Murder, and now, oh wait, he's on all this new. So it's kind of it's not a big deal to see him on a Conan record anymore. Well,
because I mean, he's ostensibly he is the drummer for Secret Friends, but his day job is being in the Melvins. He's pretty busy with his own band. So it's one of those things where if that brings in people in the door, which it does, I have no illusions about the fact that this largely breaks even. It isn't because of my marquee power necessarily, but it's something that he's a big part of these songs. Now these songs came to be, and me kind of putting this together with him and with Toshi at the producer helm and with Tony is just sort of it's kind of unlocked a lot of stuff within me to realize, okay, I've been kind of almost self-sabotaging previously and making things harder than it needs to be. And just, it's been very illuminating as someone that I like to think anyway, that I approach things very rationally and science-minded as much as one can for creative output. It's just allowed me to, God, it sounds cliche, but to be a better artist. The art and how it connects with people shows that. And it's not anything I ever expected to be doing, frankly. I never had something grandiose design. It all comes back to hearing those records for the first time as a kid and just immediately connecting to them, oh, this is my music. And some of those records would be Melvin's records, right? And then now I'm playing with one of the dudes. That's freaking incredible. It's a wonderful thing. So what does it have some greater meaning? To me, it does, because I look at it like a community. I look at it as something that there's a reciprocal kind of give and take with, and it means something. And it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as it would to a kid from Modesto who hears it for the first time and has to drive 45 minutes to Sacramento to go buy the CD.
Right.
But the fact that people all over kind of it resonates with them and they're getting something out of it is awesome. And anything that I can do to move that forward and kind of stay true to that and continue to give people something that's, I don't know, I'm making the kind of music I would want to hear, and I frankly don't. So other people seem to dig it sometimes too, and that's cool.
And that's all that matters, really. And in the end, that's all that matters. Well, Conan, I want to thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me a little bit. And I want everybody who's watching this to stick around for the post show Talking Neutron with your.
Oh, fuck.
But no,
starring Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, no, we don't have enough skinny ties. But I want to thank you again
makes me jump for the remote control to turn off the TV faster than that guy.
I know, it's just so bad. And I was listening to. I actually had to listen to his new show that he has because he interviewed Alan Alda, and I'm a huge MASH fan. And I went through almost 2 hours of having to suffer through him, and they barely talked about MASH. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm here for MASH. I'm not here for your conversation bullshit. Anyway, but thank you so much.
I've seen him I've seen Hardwick do stand up, and that was not good either.
I got soft wick after that. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Go to all the Neutron friends at bandcamp.com, .bandcamp.com, all that kind of stuff. If he's going to be in your area, be sure to go out and support him, buy his merch, go see the show, because that's how you truly support an artist, is going to the live shows.
There's actually a thing on the website that actually has like shows that we're playing too, so you don't have to exclusively rely on Facebook, which I think is probably wise in this day and age.
Yeah, because the Russians know where the secret friends are playing.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to use it to elect Trump again. But no.
They mark interested but not attending.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do for a lot of people, especially when I get invites from people. It's like, hey, come to my movie premiere in California. Yeah, I'm going to get right on top of that.
Yeah.
I have a 95 Ford Taurus in the garage. It's not running, but I'll drop everything to go to your movie premiere in California.
Yeah, this is it, guys. This is the thing.
This is how we do it. But Conan, thank you so much, and I'd love to have you back on again and be
absolutely.
When more stuff starts pouring out. Like, as I look out the window right now, it looks like the heavens are about to open again. So,
yeah, there's stuff pouring out, all right.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I look at the meters on the recording here, and yes, we're still recording, but I'm looking at the meters on it, and I was dead silent while you were talking, and then a big crack of thunder hit, and it actually picked up on the microphone. So that's nice to know.
Oh, man. That's a big thunderclap.
We're all going to die, folks. Hooray! Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks so much, Ron.